Good morning friends, welcome back to Parnika tutorials. In this video, I want to discuss in detail about methods in Java. So I sincerely request everyone to watch the complete video for better understanding. What is a method? Method is a block of statements or a collection of statements which are executed to perform a certain task. Look at here, a method is a block of code or statements or collection of statements to perform a certain task. You have written a method to perform the addition of two numbers. You have written a method to compute the length of a string. All these things are the method. So in a method, you will have a body. In that body, you will write all the statements which you want to execute when you call the method. Then lot of people will get a doubt, sir, a function is also a block of code or a collection of statements to perform a certain task. Then what is the difference between a function and a method? In a procedure-oriented language, we will call it as a function. But in Java, it is a pure object-oriented language. So everything you need to write inside the class. Am I right? So if you are writing a function inside a class, then you will call it as a method. If you are writing outside the class, in C++ you can write outside the class. So there we can call it as a function. So a function outside the class. Function inside the class is method. So what are the things you learned about the functions in other programming languages? It will be applied in the methods. Okay. Now we have two types of methods. One is user-defined methods. A user-defined method, and another one is predefined method. First, let me discuss about the predefined method, then I will discuss about the user-defined method. The predefined methods such as println, print, am I right? And even in the string, when we have discussed about the string class and string data type, we have discussed various methods such as length. Okay, in string buffer, we have discussed about the reverse, substring with two parameters, am I right? Or lost index of, all those methods we have discussed. So for those methods, have we written any code of statements? We just call the method, am I right? We did not write any definition for such methods. So the Java developers have developed some methods. They have written the code. We just need to call them. Once we call, accordingly it will perform the certain task. So such kind of methods we will call it as predefined methods, such as println, which will be useful for you to display something. And after displaying, it will go to the new line. Similarly, you will have a method called print, which will be useful for you to display the statement. Am I right? And similarly, in the string class, you have length, which will be useful for you to compute the number of characters in a string. Similarly, in a string buffer, you have a method called reverse. It will reverse the string. All these are the predefined methods. We are just calling them. We have not written any code to define such methods. Now let me discuss about what is a user-defined method. In a user-defined method, user or the programmer will define the method and he will only call the method. So whatever the statements he want to execute, if someone is calling, then he need to write such statements in the method definition. Okay, now let me discuss a generalized syntax. How can you define a method? See, you have the access specifier. Okay, you will have an access specifier, and then you will have the return type. Let me write in shortcut as RT, return type. You will have access specifier, a return type, and then method name. Method name, let me write it as method name like this. Because of the space issue, I'm writing. See, you will have an access specifier, a return type, method name, and the list of parameters. What are the parameters you are providing? All the list of parameters you need to provide, and then you will have the curly braces. Whatever the statements you want to write, let's say that you are writing statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, so on. What are the statements? Because it is a collection of statements. So all the collection of statements you need to write inside the body. Okay, so you will have an access specifier, a return type, method name, and list of parameters. Now you have various access specifiers such as a public, protected, private, and even you have the default. Okay, so these access specifiers we will discuss in another class. Our main focus is about the return type, method name, and list of parameters and the statements. The access specifiers we'll discuss in separate video. Okay, so the point here is that what is the name or how you will give the name. So we will call it as a naming convention. A naming convention in Java. What is it is that for a method, suppose let's take that you want to have a method called array example or array addition. Suppose let's take like this. You have to give a method name stating that array addition. There is no space in between. Okay, is it clear? Array addition. It is a 2 words. If it is a 2 words, the second word, a first character, you should make it as a capital letter. So if you have multiple words such as word 1, word 2, word 3, you are keeping it as a name for a method. The first word, first character will be lowercase. From the second word onwards, the first character should be a capital 1. So you need to write, the standard way is word 1 and you need to have the capital W, word 2, capital W, word 3. There is no space here. Is it clear? Don't consider that word 1 space, word 2 space. Just for you to make you understand, I am giving a space. But when you are giving a name to the method, you need to follow all the rules of an identifier. We have discussed all the rules. In an identifier, white space is not allowed. So you should not have any white space when you are writing the name for a method. Okay, so this is the standard way. If you does not write, no problem. But if you want to be a good Java programmer, you need to follow the standards. Okay, now let me discuss with a simple example. I have defined a method called add. Okay, and I have written the return type as void. Okay, and I have written the add and I did not provide any parameters, and here inside that one I have written system.out.println I am performing addition, something I am performing addition, something I am writing. Okay, due to space issue I am not writing anything. You can write whatever you want. Okay, so now look at here, the return type is void. Okay, the return type is void means this method does not return any value. Okay, if you are providing the return type as void, meaning is that it does not return, or this method does not return any value. See, can you able to see any return statement here? No. Am I right? Is it clear? And the method name is add and there is no parameters. It is, that's why we will say optional parameters. You no need to give compulsory. Okay, compulsory, not required to have the parameters. If you don't want to have them, no problem. If you want to have them, it's okay. Is it clear? So return type void specifies that it does not return any value, and add is the method name, and we are not providing any parameters. Okay, this one we'll call it as a method with 0 parameters or 0 arguments. Okay, and the body, inside the body you have written system.out.println, you are printing this one. Suppose let's take that you want to return, suppose you are performing like this, int a is equal to 100, similarly int b is equal to 200, you are returning some value, return a plus b. Look at here, let me close the method. Now a value is how much? 100. B value is how much? 200. A plus b will be 300, which is of what constant? It is an integer constant. So this method add is returning a integer value. So in this case, you need to provide the return type as int. Okay, meaning is that it returns, this method returns an integer value. That is the meaning. So in this method add, there is a return statement, And what kind of value it is returning? It is returning an integer constant. So the return type should be an int. Suppose if this method is returning a float value, then the return type should be float. If this method is returning a boolean value, the return type should be boolean. So what kind of value or what constant this method is returning, accordingly you need to provide the return type. I hope you have understood. Okay. Now, for better understanding, I will write a program and discuss all these things in detail. Now, let me write a class. Name of the class is example. Okay. Now, inside the class, let me have two variables, int A, int B, and I am having two methods. Okay. One is add and another one is subtract. So I'm writing void add. Okay. And what I'm doing, system dot out dot println addition is I will write plus a plus b. Okay. And let me close the method. Similarly, I have another method called sub. Okay. Now this method will perform the subtraction and display the value. So system.out.println subtraction is a minus b. Okay. This plus is for concatenation. Okay. Let me close the method. So, and let me close the class. So now look at here. This is a class and the class name, every word should have the capital. So that's why E here is a capital. Okay. And there are two variables and two methods. These kind of variables, we will call it as instance variable. Okay. Or instance variables. These methods, we will call it as instance method, because for each object, you will have these methods. Okay. Now you can ask me, sir, you said for a method, we will have the access specifier, return type, method name. But there is no access specifier. And you said access specifiers are public, private, protected. If it does not provide any access specifier, what it is? It will be a default. The default access specifier states that this method only visible inside the package. Now let me create the main class or the driver class. Okay. Now let's take that. I'm taking this class name or the file name as what I can say, method. Okay. Method example. Okay. Look at here. M is capital, E is capital. So this program, you need to save it as method example.java. Okay, is it clear? So this will be your main class or the driver class. So meaning is that in this one you will write the main function. So you will have public, static, void, main. See here the public is the access specifier. Okay. Is it clear? And then let me write string where S is capital and you have the args, AR you can consider. Okay. So you have public, static, void, main. So this class will call it as a main class or the driver class. So the program execution will start from here. Now what I will do, I will take two variables, int p is equal to some 100, int q is equal to, let me take q is equal to some 300. Okay. So what I will do is that I need to create a object for this class, because once you define a class, memory will not be allocated, because class is in what? Imaginary, whereas an object is the real entity. So if you want to access the variables and methods of a particular class, you need to create an object. So how can you create an object? Class name, which is example, object name, let me write it as ob1 is equal to new keyword will be useful for you to allocate the memory, and then you will have the class name, which is example in this scenario. Okay, let me end with a semicolon. So you'll have class name, object name is equal to new class name. Okay, then I will write ob1 dot a is equal to p, ob1 dot b is equal to q. So what I am doing, with the help of the object ob1, I am accessing the instance variables such as a and b for a class example, and I am assigning the value p and q. So meaning is that for this object ob1, a will have the value 100 and b will have the value 300. Now what I will do, I will call these methods called add and sub. With the help of what? With the help of the object and using the dot operator. So object name dot method, which is add. Similarly, if I write ob1 dot sub, this one. So now what I am doing, I am closing the main function and I am closing the class. Now this statement we will call it as method calling. Okay, this one you are calling the method, and this statement, okay, or add or anything, this is method definition. You are providing a definition for a method. Okay, if you are defining the method, the statements will not be executed unless until you call the method. Okay, so now look at here, a value is how much? 100. B value is how much? 300. So system.out.println, the addition will be 400. So this program will give the output as addition is 400 and subtraction is 100 minus 300. So it will give minus 200. Okay, so this is the way you can have a class. Inside the class you can have the methods, you can create an object and you can call them. Now I want to change a little bit. What I want to do is that here I have specified the return type as void. Now this method does not return any value, but I want to return something. Okay, so what I will do here is that I will write int add, and then instead of printing the addition value here, what I will do is that I will return the value. Okay, so what I will do here is that I will write return a plus b. Okay, similarly here, okay, let me discuss that part alone. Int add return a plus b. So in this case what I will do is that I will call the add method. Okay, I will call the add method some int d is equal to, I will call ob1 dot add. Then look at here, what will happen? A is having the value 100, B is having the value 300, so return 100 plus 300. So this method, whenever you are calling the method using an object, then it will return an integer constant. What integer constant it will return? 400. So that's why I have specified the return type as int. So that value is stored in the variable d, because this method is returning an integer value. That integer value you know to store somewhere. Integer variable you can, integer value you can store in a integer variable. So that's why I have written int d. Here you can display system.out.println, okay, d. Then whatever it is returning, it will print, display here. Is it clear? Instead of that one, even you can pass the parameters. Suppose let's take that I am passing the parameters such as p comma q. Okay, p comma q I am passing. Then here you will take int p comma int q, or any name you can give, and you can write return p plus q. Now what is happening? This method is having two parameters and are of integer. So when you are calling this method, you need to pass the integer values. Is it clear? See, the number of parameters in the method definition and the number of parameters in method calling should be same, and the data types also should be same. Meaning is that they should have the same signature. Okay, otherwise you will get an error. Okay, So now here this p comma q are called as formal parameters or formal arguments. So what are the parameters you are passing in the method calling? We'll call it as formal parameters or formal arguments. Here we'll call it as, oh, sorry, this is actual. I'm really sorry for it. This is actual parameters and this is formal parameters. The name of the actual parameters and formal parameters can be same or can be different. I hope you have understood this program. For better understanding, I will execute this program in the desktop and show the output for you all. Let me write the class name called example, and inside the class I will declare two variables called a and then b. These two variables are called as instance variables. Now I will write two methods. So I will write void add and it will not take any parameters. So what I will do is that I will simply compute the addition and display the value. So system.out.println, I want to write the statement the sum is, and I can write plus, and then I can write a plus b. This plus is for performing the addition and this plus is for concatenation. Let me close the main add method. Similarly, let me define another method called sub. So here I will write system.out.println. The difference is, or the subtraction is, I can write plus and then a minus b. Okay, let me close the method and let me close the class. Now let me have the main class, which is method example. Why we are having the name called method example for the main class? Because you have saved this program as method example.java. So the main class should have the name called method example. So public static void main, and then you can have string aux, okay, which is a string array. Okay, aux is a string array which is a one dimensional. Okay, so now what I will do, I will create an object for the class called example, because without creating an object the memory will not be allocated. So what I will do, I will have the class name called example, and then object name is ob1 new a class name which is example. Now let me have two integer values. Let's take that 50 and another one is 20. Int p is equal to 50, int q is equal to 20. Now what you are doing here is you are calling the methods called add and sub using the object called ob1. So I can write ob1 dot add. But before that, what you need to do, you need to have the instance variables a and b to the having the values called p and q, whatever the values are there, 50 and 20. So I can write a statement called ob1 dot a is equal to p, ob1 dot b is equal to q. So now instance variables a and b are having the value 50 and 20 respectively. Now I will call the method add, and similarly I will call the method called sub using the object called ob1. Now let me close the main method and let me close the class called method example. Okay, now to compile and execute the program, I will go to the command prompt, and you know that all our programs are there in the desktop Java programs folder. So I have used the command called cd to change the directory. Now let me compile the program, which is method example.java. Look at here, there are no errors. Now let me run the program, which is method example. Okay, Java method example. See, we got the output as the sum is 70, the subtraction is 30. Okay, now what I will do the few modifications. Instead of displaying the value here, I want to return the value. Okay, so here what I will do, I will write the return statement and a plus b, okay, which is an integer value. So I am writing the return type as
int. Similarly, here I'm writing int, and this statement will be modified to return a minus b. Okay, so now as it is returning an integer value, you need to store that result in some variable. Let me write int r1 is equal to ob1 dot add, and here int r2 is equal to ob1 dot sub. So this is what method calling, and this one is what method definition. Okay, you are defining it, the statements which are required. Okay, anything else we need to change? We no need to change anything else, but we need to display the r1 and r2. So let me write system.out.println. Here I can write the sum is, or the addition is, anything what you want to write. Okay, plus r1. Similarly, you need to display the r2 value. Okay, the subtraction is a plus r2. Okay, let me end with a semicolon. I'm saving the program. I will go to the command prompt. Let me clear the screen and again compile the program. So what is the statement you need to write, or what is the command you need to write? Javac class name dot java or file name dot java, and then I will write java method example. Now you got the same output as the sum is 70 and the subtraction is 30. Okay, now let me do few more modifications. What I will do here is that I will pass the arguments. Okay, here what I will do is that I will pass two arguments, and those two arguments I will write somewhere. So here what I will do, I will write int p comma int q. Okay, here also I will write int p comma int q. Okay, int q, oh sorry, capital int q, and those two values you need to pass. Here what you need to write, p comma q, and here also you can write p comma q. Suppose, let me discuss this one. I forgot to provide two arguments. Instead of I have given only one argument. What will happen, we will see. Okay, now let me save the program and let me clear the screen again. Let me compile the program. See, you got an error. What is that error? In 24th line, there is an error. What is that? Method sub in class example cannot be applied to given types. Okay, what it is saying, required two integer values. You need to pass two integer values, but it has found only one integer values. So the reason is actual and formal arguments list differ in length. In actual, you are passing only one argument. Am I right? Only one argument or one parameter you are passing, but in the method definition called serve, you are defined two integer values. So that is what the issue will happen. Now let me pass two values which is there in the variable p and q. Now let me save the program and let me compile it again. Okay, java c method example.java. Now there is no issues. Now let me run the program. You got the output as the sum is 70, the subtraction is 30. I hope you have understood this concept. If you still have any doubts related to this concept, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I will try to clear your doubts as early as possible. Thank you for watching the complete video. Have a nice day.